May 2nd, 2026. The MV Hondius, a Dutch-flagged vessel carrying 147 passengers and crew, is under quarantine in the mid-Atlantic. 3 are dead, 4 fighting for their lives. The nearest hospital is 1,000 miles of ocean away.
The passengers are being told to stay in their cabins. Don't touch each other. Wait. The virus killing them has no vaccine, no antiviral, and, strangely, no real name. Scientists call it sin nombre, Spanish for the virus without a name. And to understand why a virus in 2026 doesn't have a proper name, why the world's best epidemiologists were too afraid, too guilty, or too humbled to give it one, you have to go back. Not to 1993, when the world first met this killer. You have to go back further. The stories the Navajo elders were already telling. To warnings written in rainfall patterns and pine nuts and mouse tracks. To a plague that was never new. We just stopped paying attention. This is Plague Diaries. Every infection has a story, every outbreak a beginning. And this one begins with one of the most misunderstood medical emergencies on Earth. Sin nombre, the virus without a name. May 14th, 1993. The Four Corners region of the American Southwest, the only place in the United States where 4 states touch at a single point. Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah. Most of this land belongs to the Navajo Nation. The Diné, the people, have lived here for 1,000 years. On this morning, a 19-year-old Navajo man is driving down Route 44. He's a marathon runner, lean, strong, the kind of kid who could run you into the ground without breathing hard. He's driving to a funeral, his fiancée's funeral. She died 5 days ago, 21 years old, healthy, until suddenly she wasn't. A fever, body aches. Then, within hours, her lungs started filling with fluid. By the time she reached the hospital, she was drowning in the high desert, 1,000 miles from the nearest ocean. Nobody could explain it. He doesn't make it to the funeral. Somewhere between his home and the chapel, the marathon runner starts gasping. He pulls over at a roadside gas station. His family calls 911. By the time paramedics arrive, he is in full respiratory fail. Lungs. The lungs of a trained endurance athlete are drowning him from the inside. Doctors have a name for what's happening. Florid pulmonary edema. A catastrophic, rapid flooding of the lungs. They do not have a name for what caused it. He dies in the emergency room a few hours later. 2 young people, in love, dead within a week of each other. Same symptoms, same impossible drowning death. And now, the New Mexico Office of Medical Investigations is asking a question that will haunt the next 8 weeks of American epidemiology. What just killed them? And how many more are about to die? Within 48 hours, 5 more deaths surface, all in the same region, all previously healthy, all dying the same way. Fever, body aches, then a sudden, violent flooding of the lungs. Young people, strong people, dead in 3 to 5 days. The CDC is called. A multi-agency task force forms, the Centers for Disease Control, the state health departments of New Mexico, Arizona, and Colorado, the Indian Health Service, the University of New Mexico, and the Navajo Nation itself. They narrow it down to 3 possibilities. A new, aggressive strain of influenza, an environmental toxin, something in the water, the air, the soil, a previously unknown pathogen. None of them know yet that the answer is option 3. And none of them know yet that the answer has been here, in these hills, since at least 1959. The press does what the press always does. They give it a name. The Four Corners virus. Then the whispers start. The Navajo flu. The reservation disease. Tourists cancel trips to the region. Pueblo artists can't sell pottery at roadside stands. School children from the Navajo Nation are pulled out of sports tournaments by rival parents. A nation already bearing the weight of centuries of stolen land, broken treaties, and federal neglect is suddenly being blamed for a plague nobody can explain. The Navajo people call it the double jeopardy disease. You could die from the virus, or you could die a little every time someone looked at you like you were the virus. It will take months for that stigma to be undone, and the first crack in the mystery won't come from a laboratory. It will come from a story. The Navajo Nation has no written language, at least not in the way Europeans mean it. Instead, they have 1,000 years of oral tradition, history that is not read but told. Grandparents to grandchildren, a chain of memory, unbroken. When the CDC's epidemiologists arrived the summer of 1993, Navajo leaders made a request that, to most Western scientists, would have seemed unscientific, maybe even superstitious. Come sit with the elders. They have something to tell you. The elders told a story. Actually, they told several. There had been sicknesses like this before. In 1918, in 1933, maybe even earlier, in memories so old they had faded into legend. Each time, the pattern was the same. A long drought, then a year of heavy rain. Then, suddenly, death among the young and the strong. And each time the elders said, it came down to one thing: the mice. In Navajo tradition, mice and humans come from different worlds. They are not supposed to meet. When balance is broken, when humans and mice cross paths too often, disease follows. The elders gave specific advice. Burn contaminated clothing. Seal food in containers. Clean up mouse droppings only with water. Never a dry broom, never a dry rag. Do not sleep where mice have slept. And they told the scientists, this year, you must understand. The rains came. The pinyon pine is heavy with nuts. The mice are everywhere. Some members of the CDC task force were skeptical. Some were not. But one thing was undeniable. Whatever was killing people was moving fast, and no laboratory in the United States had yet identified a cause. So they did something rare in the history of American science. They listened. They brought in mammalogists from the University of New Mexico. They began setting rodent traps, thousands of them, across the outbreak zone, wherever a victim had lived, worked, or slept. By the end of that summer, 1,696 rodents would be trapped, catalogued, and tested. The answer was in the traps. Of the 1,696 rodents captured, one species carried the deadly cargo at a terrifying rate. Peromyscus maniculatus, the North American deer mouse. A creature so common, it lives in nearly every state in the continental US. Small enough that you can hold a dozen in one cupped hand. And utterly, chronically infected with something science had never seen before. The CDC rushed samples to its Special Pathogens branch in Atlanta. In parallel, the U.S. Army Medical Research Institute of Infectious Diseases, USAMRIID, the nation's top biodefense laboratory at Fort Detrick, Maryland, worked the same samples independently. A race, a necessary one. The pathogen they isolated was a hantavirus.
Hantaviruses were not new to
Science. They had been known since the Korean War, when thousands of United Nations soldiers fell ill with a hemorrhagic fever traced to field mice in the Hantan River Valley. That was 1951. For 40 years, scientists had assumed hantaviruses were a problem of Asia and Europe, a disease that attacked the kidneys, a disease that stayed over there. Now, in the summer of 1993, they had found a hantavirus no one had ever described before, in North America, carried by a mouse found in every corner of the continent. And this one didn't attack the kidneys. It attacked the lungs. They named the disease Hantavirus Pulmonary Syndrome, HPS, a new category of illness for a new kind of killer. The virus itself needed a name too. The CDC proposed Four Corners virus, then Muerto Canyon virus, named after a landmark near the outbreak zone. Both names drew immediate protest. Navajo leaders pointed out what should have been obvious. Naming a virus after their sacred land, or a Spanish conquistador legend of death, would tie this plague to their people forever. The way Spanish flu still haunted the Iberian Peninsula, the way Lyme disease still overshadows a Connecticut town. So the CDC did something remarkable. They surrendered the naming rights. They called it Sin Nombre, the virus without a name. An admission of humility and of guilt. From first death to virus isolation, 6 months. In the history of emerging infectious disease, that is astonishing. Ebola took years. HIV took longer. Sin Nombre was cracked in a single summer because scientists listened to people they had no training to listen to, and because a network of tribal nations, federal agencies, and university labs pulled in the same direction at the same time. It was, for a moment, what American public health could be at its best. The Durs were right about the rain. They were right about the pine nuts. They were right about the mice. The 1992 to 1993 El Niño dropped unusually heavy precipitation across the American Southwest after years of drought. Piñon pines, the backbone of the high desert food web, produced a massive crop of nuts. Deer mice, which feed on those nuts, exploded in number. Researchers would later estimate the deer mouse population in the outbreak zone had grown tenfold in a single year. More mice meant more infected mice. More infected mice meant more urine, feces, and saliva dried into dust. More dust meant more inhalation opportunities for humans, sweeping out cabins, cleaning storage sheds, disturbing the quiet places where mice had nested over the winter. No bite required, no direct contact, just air. In the years after 1993, climate scientists would go further. They proved, statistically, that Sin Nombre outbreaks could be predicted by El Niño cycles. Watch the Pacific Ocean, wait for the rain, count the mice. The virus would follow. The Navajo had compressed this entire scientific insight into a single sentence. When balance is broken, disease follows. May 2026. The MV Hondius. The virus killing passengers on that ship is not the Sin Nombre virus. It's a cousin, the Andes virus, native to southern Chile and Argentina, named for the mountain range where it first surfaced in the mid-1990s. It is the only hantavirus on Earth confirmed to spread person to person. 7 sick, 3 dead, another critical. A ship full of people sealed together in a metal tube, breathing the same recycled air, learning what the Navajo have known for 1,000 years. When balance is broken, disease follows.
33 years after
Nombre emerged, there is still no approved vaccine for any hantavirus infecting humans. No antiviral drug, no cure, only oxygen, ventilators, and time. The case fatality rate for hantavirus pulmonary syndrome has settled around 36%. For Andes virus, it is higher. Some outbreaks have killed more than half of those infected.
Doctors know what to look for now.
That is the one thing that has changed. The other thing, the deeper thing, is that the climate the Navajo elders described, the cycle of drought and flood, of boom years and bust years, of mouse populations exploding after too much rain, that climate has become the baseline. El Niño is no longer a punctuation mark. It is a paragraph. The mice are coming back, and they are bringing their passengers with them.
Sin nombre.
The virus without a name.
but maybe it always had one.
Written in rainfall, in pine nuts, in the footprints of a small brown mouse that has been sharing this continent with humans since long before the first European map ever called it America.
The Navajo elders
Told the CDC a story in 1993. They didn't know about molecular biology. They didn't need to. They knew that mice and humans come from different worlds. They knew that when those worlds collide, people die.
in the laboratories of Atlanta and Fort Detrick,
The scientists cracked the molecular code in 6 months. An achievement, a miracle of modern medicine.
in the Hogans of the Four Corners,
The elders had already cracked it. They just used a different language. In 1993, indigenous knowledge solved a scientific mystery.
in 2026,
We are still learning how much we do not know.
Plague Diaries.
Subscribe for more forgotten outbreaks.